Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Today we got to talk about Stephanie McMahon resigning as chairwoman and co-CEO of WWE. A surprising, yet kind of not surprising move on her part, but let us discuss. So, at about 6 p.m. on January the 10th, Stephanie McMahon put out a statement that read thusly. Her statement reads, "Dear WWE Universe, about 8 months ago, I took a leave of absence, and within a few weeks, unexpectedly had the opportunity of a lifetime. I had the privilege to return as the co-CEO and chairwoman of the board of WWE. I cannot put into words how proud I am to have led what I consider to be the greatest company in the world, working alongside a remarkable leadership team and one of the strongest executives I have known in my co-CEO, Nick Khan. Our founder, Vince McMahon, has returned as executive chair and is leading an exciting process regarding strategic alternatives. And with Nick's leadership and Triple H, Paul Levesque, as chief content officer, I am confident WWE is in the perfect place to continue to provide unparalleled creative content and drive maximum value for our shareholders. WWE is in a strong position that I have decided to return to my leave and take it one step further with my official resignation. I look forward to cheering on WWE from the other side of the business, where I started when I was a little kid as a pure fan. I will always remain dedicated to WWE. I truly love our company, our employees, our superstars, and our fans, and I am grateful to all of our partners. Thank you forever, everything. Then, now, forever, together, Steph." Buddy. So, then, not too long after this, it was announced that Vince McMahon had been voted back on, not only onto the board, but now he is the executive chairman of the board. So this is from WWE Corporate. It says WWE today announced that its board of directors unanimously elected Vince McMahon executive chairman of the board. Stephanie McMahon has resigned from her roles as chairwoman and co-CEO. Nick Khan will serve as WWE CEO. Vince McMahon, his comments. He says, "First, I'd like to express my full support for Stephanie's personal decision. I'll be forever grateful that she offered to step in during my absence, and I am truly proud of the job she did co-leading WWE. Stephanie has always been the ultimate ambassador for our company, and her decades of contributions have left an immeasurable impact on our brand. I'm proud to announce that Nick Khan will serve as WWE CEO. Nick's business acumen and mastery of the media industry have helped catapult our business to record revenue and profitability. Together, we look forward to working with the board at its critical moment in time to review our strategic alternatives and maximize value for all WWE shareholders." Stephanie McMahon put out another statement that says, quote, "I cannot put into words how proud I am to have led what I consider to be..." Oh, this is just basically a summary of her previous comments about driving maximum value for shareholders. Nick Khan says, quote, "Stephanie McMahon is a terrific executive and an even better person. It's been an honor to serve as co-CEO with her. She will only continue to succeed. I'm grateful to Vince McMahon and our board of directors for their ongoing support. I look forward to continuing my work closely with them and my WWE colleagues to ensure our company may thrive as the premier powerhouse in sports entertainment for years to come." Now, brother, there is a lot to digest just right here. All right, so there's things that need to be noted. Okay, one of the things that needs to be noted is that the board unanimously, this is with Manjit Singh and the Ignace guy and Stephanie, they unanimously voted that Vince should not return. Then they unanimously voted for Vince McMahon to return with George Barrios and Michelle Wilson, and that the 3 other members would resign. Then 2 former, the Ignace fellow and Manjit Singh, they both resigned. Then Vince McMahon is voted executive chairman unanimously by the same people who didn't want him in the company in the first place. And then Stephanie resigns. This is an absolute disaster. We have reached the point of this is chaotic. All right. This amount of turnover in your corporate governance is not a positive thing, and there's no two ways about it. People have to be looking at this and asking themselves, what the fuck is going on in Stanford? Like, what is going on literally? Now, the conspiracy theory that I would put out there, and I think many people will understand this, is that Stephanie was just a stand-in for Vince. So that when Stephanie was made co-CEO, she was basically just there as a puppet for Vince. And that the whole time that Vince was outside of the company, Stephanie was in the company. Then, soon as Vince comes back, Stephanie's gone now, again. So now that the old man is back in the seat, in one manner of speaking, there's no need for Stephanie anymore. She can go back to doing whatever she was doing before. But you can't just go from being CEO to being, literally, what was she doing? Marketing and promotions or something like that? You can't go backwards. She's not going to take a pay cut to go backwards, so she's going to step away. So we went from, hey, it's going to be weird to see Vince sitting out in the crowd, probably sitting next to Linda during WrestleMania, watching from ringside, like, the AAA owners do, to, hey, it's going to be weird to see Vince, Linda, and Stephanie sitting ringside around the barricade like the Triple H owners do. And that's the only way that this makes sense, however, is the conspiracy theory, and that is that Stephanie was just a proxy for Vince. That's the only way this makes sense. That's the only way that anybody can make the argument that this is not chaos. It would have to be an absolute plot, a scheme put together by the evil Mr. McMahon for it to be the only way that does not make sense. Okay? This does not look good. There's no way you're changing board members. They've lost 3 board members this week. They lost 5. I'm sorry. They lost 5 board members this week. Now, Stephanie, as far as I know, is still on the board. She just will not be co-CEO, and she's not chairwoman of the board anymore. So she's still going to be a board member, but she is not going to be in any executive positions. Now, why would you do that? Well, obviously, again, it makes sense if you don't need her anymore, because Vince is going to get back in the chair eventually. Now, this was not all. PW Insider also put out that Vince is probably going to get sued. So here is from January 10th, 2023 by Dave Shearer. He says, quote, "A friend of mine who was a party in the WWE shareholder derivative suit that was filed last June by Scott & Scott after the NDA allegations against Vince McMahon surfaced sent me the following update email that he received today from the lawyers, with names redacted to ensure privacy. It says, quote, I hope you had a great holiday season. I'm writing with the update on WWE. We have been working with the company for several months and have received several internal documents, which we have been reviewing. We expect to get an additional batch of documents this week. You also may have seen the news this week about Vince McMahon forcing his way back onto the board, along with a major board shakeup. As a result, we believe there is enough of a basis to bring a breach of a fiduciary lawsuit. We hope to file a complaint against McMahon and possibly other directors and officers for breaching their duties to WWE and its shareholders. We have a draft for you to review in the next couple of days. It will also require a signature on a one-page verification, which will also send. In the meantime, do you have a phone number we could use in case we need to contact you that way? Please let me know if you have any questions about anything. So, now, when it comes to lawsuits, now this is corporate America, and when you're dealing with corporate America, people will just file lawsuits. I mean, that's just what they do. We're a very litigious company in the United States. We're very, very litigious. Like, we will sue for just about anything. And sometimes people just sue to get information. They sue because they want to know what's going on. And this is a situation where you probably should try to get some kind of discovery to see what on earth is going on. I personally, just going off the top of my head, Occam's razor, the simplest answer is usually the right one, is that there was some kind of collusion to figure out who was, releasing information to the Wall Street Journal and all that stuff. And that kind of began the entire process of, we need to kind of have an investigation of the board. Vince will step down, and whoever steps up to be the guy who wants to investigate Vince or take this thing further is probably the rat, which would be your Manjit Singh. That guy. You let that guy do whatever he's going to do. He doesn't find anything particularly illegal. It's all shady and suspicious, but nothing, that is actively going to send Vince McMahon to jail. And then Vince decides to come back because, well, despite the fact that he did spend his own money to benefit the company, and then the company has now to change their books in order to have those things recorded as expenditures. Outside of that stuff, which is not embezzlement, which is what everybody thought he was doing, because using company money for your personal stuff is embezzlement. That's what everybody thought Vince was doing, but that's not what he was doing. So now that, it's all out there, the investigation is complete, Vince is like, okay, I can come back now. We've probably figured out who our rat is, or we have a general idea, or it's just we're going to get rid of everybody we can't trust. So we can't trust these three. We trust George Barrios and Michelle Wilson. We're going to bring them back. I'm going to come back, and we're going to replace three people that we're not sure about. Going to get rid of them. And then, of course, that Manjit Singh and that Ignace guy, they both left. So essentially, the board was made up as of July the 9th, made up of people that they could trust. Three of them was Vince, Stephanie, Nick Khan, Triple H, and I think it was probably one other person, one or two other people. But the Stephanie, she had to step down as chairwoman in order for Vince to become the chairman, the executive chairman of the board. That kind of had to happen. You can't have two people in the same position. And it was already suspicious that Nick Khan and Stephanie wanted to be co-CEOs rather than one of them getting to make the decision. Then there's the other conspiracy theory that's been flying out there for a while. And that is when Stephanie resigned at some point in 2021, that it was done. She was pushed out, forced out, because they were not happy with the job she was doing and they did not like her. So if it's going to be very interesting to listen to how other people try to make this make sense, because if Stephanie was doing a bad job in that under position, which I'm trying to remember what exactly it was. I think it was chief brand officer. That's what it was. If she was doing a terrible job as chief brand officer and was forced out, why then did they make her co-CEO? Okay, I don't know. If Vince didn't like her in that spot, why did he even continue to be in a position so that she could become the CEO? Who knows? And then she was made co-CEO because the person they kind of really want running the company, and has kind of been running the company anyway for the last several years, has been Nick Khan. He's been the guy running the company, to be quite honest, for the last few years. Even when Vince was, running creative and doing his dual role as chairman of the board and CEO, Nick Khan was still making a lot of the decisions. He was eating up a lot of the time in the meetings and all that kind of stuff. He was in some ways being groomed to be the guy who was going to take over when Vince left. And everybody saw that, and everybody kind of had an idea that that was going to be the case. So for him to be made co-CEO didn't make much sense. He should have just been made the CEO. Well, now he is the CEO. And Vince is back in his position as executive chairman of the board. So it's almost as if it seemed like it was collusion. To me, that seems to be the most, these are very smart people and they say a lot without saying anything. Like if you read Stephanie's comments, you read Vince's comments or whatever, it's all strategic alternatives, fiduciary responsibility for our shareholders, blah, 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 a bunch of nothing. The bottom line is they probably had some very real conversations about what they want to do. and how they want to split this thing up, and who is really going to be running what and why. Now, most wrestling fans are going to be running around like a chicken with their head cut off about Vince and creative. I don't give a fuck about Vince McMahon and creative. I really don't care. Raw is still going to be 3 hours, so who really cares? Triple H, as far as I know, is not affected by this deal and has not been affected by any of this stuff. It's been simply a Vince, Stephanie, Nick Khan thing that they got going on over there. Triple H, it seems, is going to inherit the wrestling part of the business. He's going to be able to run that. Nick Khan doesn't know anything about that. So Nick Khan is going to take care of the business part of the business and, the inner workings of the company. And Vince is going to run the governance of the company. Whether is Nick Khan doing a good job or not, that's going to be Vince's position. So now Stephanie's on the outside, along with her mom. So this is a very, very awkward position. And of course, a lot of people could say, again, going back to the conspiracy theory from last year, that Vince was not happy with Stephanie and her work, and maybe he still isn't. And one of the things when he became executive chairman was that he wanted to replace Stephanie. That maybe he didn't want Stephanie anymore. Maybe Stephanie is, it's time to put her on out to pasture. It's been 20 to 30 years of Stephanie in creative and then in chief brand officer. And she finally got up to the level of co-CEO only to get, pushed off the ledge. And I do believe this was probably either a deal she made with her dad long before this thing got to this point, or this was essentially, she got knifed. As far as corporate speak can go, she got shanked in the yard. It was like, hey, as a condition of Vince coming back, because he's holding up the company in terms of he's not going to approve anything unless you give him his power and his position, his governance position over the company. Somebody's got to fall on the sword. So now they found out that not only do 3 people have to fall on the sword, 4 has to fall on the sword. Because Stephanie knew when Vince came back that she could not continue being the chairwoman of the board. She knew that. And therefore, when they unanimously voted to put Vince back on the board, Stephanie stepping down as chairwoman, well, that was a given. Now, the CEO part, that's suspicious. Because maybe she shouldn't have been there in the first place. And a lot of people who have been following the palace drama of WWE, which is overshadowing the product, by the way. It's overshadowing the product quite a bit. This stuff is going to get talked about way more than anything that's going to happen on NXT. And it's literally happening like an hour and some change before NXT goes on the air. So it doesn't matter what you do on NXT because Stephanie just resigned. So everybody's going to be talking about Stephanie resigning. Nobody's going to be talking about NXT. That's the negative thing, the most negative thing to me about this. I don't give a fuck about what goes on in these boardrooms. It's just interesting stuff to watch people who don't know anything about boards of directors and how corporate America actually works, but they're wrestling fans, and now they're kind of watching all of this stuff. And the only thing to them is who's going to be writing Raw and SmackDown, where I'm just kind of like, hey, is anybody doing anything illegal? Because, the SEC is going to be watching this. Shareholders are watching this. I'm sure BlackRock and JP Morgan is like, what the fuck are they doing over here? What's happening? It's a bunch of carnies running a wrestling promotion that's really like a multimedia conglomerate. And over the last 2 or 3 years, they have had numerous board seat changes. People have come onto the board and left merely months later. Like Erica Nardini from, what was that, Barstool Sports. She was brought to the board, I think, in 2020, and she was gone by 2021. So, if you were to compile a list of how many people have left or joined WWE's board in the last 2 or 3 years, it's absurd. It is absurd what the hell that they've got going on over there. Now, the corporate side is a little bit more stable. These are people with institutional knowledge. Vince leaving had the most institutional knowledge. But being replaced by Stephanie and Nick Khan was fine, because at least Stephanie had been there for 20 years, and Nick Khan knows most of the talent. He's been working closely with Vince. He understands what's going on, and Triple H taking over the content, which is the guy who booked NXT. he's been, kind of booking himself off and on a little bit for the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years. He knows a little thing about wrestling. Him doing that, fine. The corporate side is perfectly fine. These are people who know what the fuck they're doing. It's in the board, the governance of WWE, that has been a major, major concern. How are these people? How can they properly evaluate how the CEOs are doing, how the company is running? How can they do that when these people are constantly changing? These people are people constantly in and out of this joint. It's very, very difficult for that to pay attention, but it's not no-name people also that's doing this stuff. It's McMahon's. So that's definitely going to get attention. If today some guy you never heard of, if you've seen a picture of him, you still wouldn't know who he was, had resigned as chairman of the board of WWE, nobody would be talking about this. People would just kind of shrug and say, I don't know who that guy is. I don't care. But because it's Stephanie, and then Stephanie steps down as CEO, now it's a big deal. This matters. I have no earthly idea what could portend from this. Is Triple H next? I don't think so. Are there going to be lawsuits? There's definitely going to be lawsuits, because lawsuits are done for sometimes with the purpose of investigation. We just want to see what's going on. And filing a lawsuit is, a really good way to get them to open the books and get to see people's emails, because you're going to have discovery, and we're really going to get to see what was going on in there. And lawsuits are a great way to do that. So I definitely expect there to be a ton of lawsuits. There's already been a ton of lawsuits towards WWE for, stuff that involves Vince and stuff that doesn't involve Vince. That's the nature of corporate America. When there's people in boardrooms doing stuff and people on the outside are wondering what the fuck they're doing in there, they're going to file a lawsuit. So it doesn't mean that they did anything illegal. Even though they may have done something illegal, we don't know yet. But a lot of it is either A, people are fishing for settlements and they just want to get some cash out of this thing because they're about to pull their investments, or B, they're invested and they want to know what you're doing. And it's shady and it's suspicious and they just want to shine a light on it. I think this is a little of both. I think there's going to be a lot of lawsuits that's going to come out of this, and it's going to be a little of both. It's going to be people fishing for settlements, and it's going to be people saying, I legitimately want to know what's going on with Vince and Stephanie. Why did this lady just resign? What's happening here? So it's not over. It is in no way over. In terms of the sale of WWE, they hired JP Morgan. So they said that the sale will be going on within the next 3 to 6 months. If there will be a sale, they'll be able to figure it out before then. I think we'll probably know the answer by WrestleMania. That's approximately 4 months away. In my Discord, I do have a Discord. I suggest everybody jump in. Try to keep it as clean as possible. We like to share information and have fun in there. The question came up that, do I think Stephanie stepping down has anything to do with the MLW lawsuit? And I'll say this. I'm surprised the MLW lawsuit is still going on. So PW Insider also had an interesting story about the MLW lawsuit that Stephanie was named in. So January the 10th, 2023, PW Insider posts an update on the WWE MLW lawsuit. So WWE is looking to halt discovery. And this is what it says. WWE filed a motion with the United States District Court, Northern District of California, San Jose Division, on January the 5th, seeking a protective order from the court that would suspend WWE's obligation to search for and produce materials requested by MLW in regard to the lawsuit against them last year. WWE's argument is that until the court rules on their motion to dismiss the lawsuit, the process of unearthing all of the documents and material MLW has requested could cost WWE millions of dollars, and should the lawsuit be dismissed, it would be a costly endeavor that was undertaken for no reason. So, WWE is making arguments basically that MLW has not proved any element of their case. I'm not going to go through this because that article is very, very long. I will, however, read the relevant portion to the question that I was asked in Discord. It says, quote, WWE stated, Quote, MLW alleges inadequate facts about WWE's purported interference with the Tubi contract to plead intentional interference. MLW failed to allege who at Tubi spoke to Mrs. McMahon, what Mrs. McMahon said to force Tubi to terminate its contract with MLW, or how frequently Ms. McMahon spoke to unnamed individuals at Tubi. As WWE noted previously, MLW also alleged that it received a letter terminating its contract with Tubi, but it failed to plead the letter's contents or grounds for termination. In other words, this likely had little to nothing to do with Stephanie McMahon. So it's likely got nothing to do with the MLW lawsuit, as the MLW lawsuit probably is on its last legs anyway. And to be quite honest, I'm surprised the MLW lawsuit has been going on as long as it has been. Again, I'm thinking it's doubling back to Stephanie and Vince and Nick Khan and all of these people playing musical chairs with board seats are basically in cahoots to ferret out whoever was trying to take down Vince and get and sell the company without Vince getting, an opinion on it. I'm more likely to believe it was that than anything to do with MLW, considering MLW's cases in California, and it seems far-fetched to even really be a big deal, to be quite honest. I mean, the lawsuit, when it comes to MLW, has a lot of claims, but very little evidence within these claims. I mean, again, they talked a lot about the Tubi stuff in here. And since I got you guys this far already, here's one of the things that WWE says. Also says WWE argued that MLW cannot use the case of proof of similar action by WWE, arguing MLW, quote, did not allege that Tubi switched from MLW to WWE, or that WWE obtained any beneficial commercial relationship with Tubi. The, quote, call in New Box was Legendary Pictures' call to the plaintiff to cancel his contracts, which had zero connection to the conduct by defendants, constituting intentional interference with contacts. New Box similarly does not support MLW's argument that it could avoid pleading the contents of the termination letter. The court held that the plaintiff did not need to plead the exact terms of the contract with the defendants purportedly interfered. The termination letter, by contrast, is vital to understand the facts surrounding the termination and the plausibility of MLW's events. WWE argued that what Tubi told MLW as to why their deal was being terminated is needed to understand the complete situation, and that unless the termination letter is related to WWE, there is no direct link that can be proven legally. They also argued that since Tubi didn't drop the MLW deal to instead pick up WWE programming, as there is none on the service, therefore MLW cannot use the legal precedent that they are trying to use as the foundation of their allegations against WWE in relation to the Tubi situation. So it's likely got nothing to do with Stephanie McMahon. And they make a similar argument about Vice, I think. That WWE made the similar argument about Vice. As, quote, according to MLW, WWE has only 2 contracts to sell broadcasting rights, and breaching the Fox contract would have exposed WWE to losing as much as, again, according to MLW, half its yearly revenue. That is entirely implausible, and MLW could prove no facts to make that fanciful allegation plausible. And again, arguing the allegations that WWE killed MLW's negotiations with Vice for potential MLW programming, WWE argued that, quote, MLW failed to allege that WWE even knew of the negotiations with Vice, which would be akin to the counterclaim defendant not knowing that Jefferson Starship was on tour. So, likely got nothing to do with MLW at all. It's just that, she was named for some odd reason, but the courts in California will figure that part out. Right now, we're dealing with Stanford issues, and Stephanie McMahon resigning is not good. It is terrible for the wrestlers. It's terrible for the business in general. To continuously playing hopscotch with these board seats, it makes it seem like people don't know what they're doing, and it also just makes the business look bush league. This does not happen this often in healthy companies, that their governance is so shoddy and continuously changes so much over time. It just does not make sense. But at least we know where we're standing now. Hopefully, it won't be any more movements, but we shall see. All right. Thank you guys for your time. I would like to invite everybody to the Discord server so that we can have some fun there. But if you're cool here with YouTube, that's fine too. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys for your time, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace out.